News when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Amy Morris. There's your closing bell for this Thursday on Wall Street, where a tech rally pushed a rebound in stocks. Of course, we bring you the closing numbers each day here at Bloomberg. The S&P 500 gained 18 points. NASDAQ gained 58. The Dow gained 293 points. The 10-year Treasury yield at 4.17%. The 2-year yield at 3.56%. The US and Taiwan have agreed to a trade deal to lower tariffs on goods from Taiwan to 15% and see Taiwanese semiconductor companies increase financing for American operations. Taiwan's technology industry would commit to making at least $250 billion in direct investments to expand advanced semiconductor, energy, and AI operations in the U.S. and provide an additional $250 billion in credit guarantees. Bloomberg's Mike Shepard.
The deal would include Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company agreeing to build as many as 4 additional plants, along with 2 packaging facilities. So we're talking about a lot of investment here, and this is something that officials in Taiwan have been looking for, but it runs the risk, of course, of antagonizing China.
The deal removes a major point of contention between the U.S. and Taiwan. Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado met with President Trump at the White House, part of her push for greater influence, 2 weeks after Nicolas Maduro was ousted. Rather than installing Machado atop a new government in Venezuela, Trump has so far thrown his support behind acting President Delcy Rodriguez. Machado also met with lawmakers on Capitol Hill. President Trump has threatened to invoke the Insurrection Act and deploy troops to quell persistent protests against ICE officers in Minneapolis. Dean of the UC Berkeley School of Law, Erwin Chemerinsky, says it would be truly extraordinary to use that act and the military in these circumstances.
There is a strong tradition in the United States that we don't use the military for domestic law enforcement. No president has done it without a governor's request since 1965, when President Johnson sent troops into Selma, Alabama, to protect civil rights demonstrators.
Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem says she doesn't think ICE has gone too far.
Our ICE agents are following the law and running their operations according to training.
President Trump has repeatedly threatened to invoke the Insurrection Act to deploy the military or federalize the National Guard for domestic law enforcement. Federal prosecutors are charging 20 people, including 15 former college basketball players, in what they call a scheme to rig NCAA and Chinese Basketball Association games. Andrew Bailey is deputy director at the FBI.
Over the past 2 years, the FBI's Philadelphia field office has conducted a wide-ranging investigation into a point-shaving conspiracy involving at least 15 NCAA men's college basketball teams.
Dozens of schools were impacted by the scheme, including Fordham, Buffalo, Georgetown, Kent State, and DePaul. Efficiency is the name of the game on Wall Street lately. The 6 largest U.S. banks cut their combined headcount last year by the most in almost a decade, more than 10,600, to keep a lid on costs. Some firms like Wells Fargo and Citigroup cut jobs. Others, like Goldman and Morgan Stanley, added to their ranks last year. And Goldman Sachs blew through expectations for equities trading revenue, posting an all-time Wall Street record of $4.31 billion in the last 3 months of last year. CEO David Solomon on the analyst call.
While the bar for transformational M&A remains very high, we will continue to look for ways to accelerate growth in asset and wealth management.
Goldman Sachs CEO David Solomon and Morgan Stanley's debt bankers increased revenue 93% in the fourth quarter, by far the biggest jump on Wall Street and capping a record year for that business. During the analyst call, CEO and Chairman Ted Pick spoke about the 2026 outlook, predicting a mix of tailwinds and headwinds to prevail.
We are well served to watch for any overreaching against ongoing global uncertainties and higher asset prices. 2025 results, and in fact, the results for every quarter over the last 8 are a blueprint for Morgan Stanley's success.
Morgan Stanley CEO Ted Pick. Chicago Fed President Austin Goolsbee says the central bank's main priority should be to tame inflation, and Kansas City Fed President Jeff Schmidt said interest rates should stay at a level where they continue to put some pressure on the economy so inflation can cool further. The Trump administration continues to face criticism from high-level Republicans over the Justice Department probe into Fed Chair Jay Powell's congressional testimony, including House Financial Services Chairman French Hill.
It is, in my personal opinion, an overreaction to concerns about the construction at the Fed, and I don't agree with that approach.
House Financial Services Chair French Hill tells Bloomberg Surveillance he's spoken with Powell about the subpoenas and is working to schedule his semi-annual monetary policy testimony on Capitol Hill. And that's news when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Amy Morris, and this is Bloomberg.